Groter sat up on the bed and ruffled his hair, then leaned over and answered the vid. On the screen was one of the men who Blackwell had introduced him to. "Eyes, you," Groter said. "Expecting someone else?" said the man. Groter shrugged. "Do you know what time it is here?" he asked. "Last I checked, you were on a ship rather than a planet," said the man. "Which means time doesn't really apply," Groter grunted. "What am I even supposed to call you?" he asked. "What's your name?" The man gave a strange smirk. "You can refer to me as the Gray Man," he claimed. "The Gray Man is a name that someone gave me," said the man. "Yes," Groter realized. His face did look somewhat gray. "It'll serve as well as any other. What do you want?" he asked. "Where's Blackwell?" "Now we get down to it," said the man. He smiled. "We figured it was time to cut out the middleman. Saves time and saves confusion. It's simple." And then he added, without transition, "Fisher's been dead." "Killed," said Groter, surprised. "What happened?" "Shot," said the man. "Head blown off." "We've interrogated the man responsible. One Estevan Sato. He doesn't seem to know anything. Strangely enough, it seems actually to be a coincidence, which means the project should be able to go forward without impediment. He's a man with severe mental problems. There's something about him, though, that intrigues me." Groter nodded. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. "Because he'll be arriving at the prison camp on Aspera," he said. "We don't expect anything to happen to suggest we were wrong about it being a coincidence, but we wanted someone there to be aware of him just in case anything came up. That's why we contacted you." Blackwell didn't need to know. "I appreciate the faith you put in me," he said. "It's not a question of putting faith in you," said the man. "It's a question of us losing faith in Blackwell. His motives are, shall we say, impure." Groter remained impassive. "You'll notice we haven't contacted Orther," said the man. "He's Blackwell's pawn, not ours. As for you, we've always preferred a knight to a pawn." "I don't know whether to feel insulted," said Groter. "Of course you don't," said the man. "Now turn off the vid and go back to sleep and try to pretend this was all a bad dream." Chapter 14. In a fit of desperation, he considered joining the Colonial Marines. If he did that, maybe after years of hard work and faithful service, he'd be in a position where he'd be given sufficient security clearance to be able to gain access to information about his brother. But then again, maybe not. Still, what else could he do? Maybe develop his computer skills further and hack his way into the system. He'd never been terrible with computers, but he was hardly an expert either, and how would he know where to start? He was considering these and other schemes when a live feed changed everything. He was lucky to catch it. Normally, he would have been at work during that time, but he'd traded shifts with someone who had a funeral to attend. Even so, he was lucky to see it. The vid request came in without a name or a location marker, and so at first he figured it was just an ad, something new put together by a vid marketer. But there flashed into his mind the recorded vid from Henry. That too had no locational marker, and he connected. It was Henry this time too. He was hunched toward the vid screen, difficult to see. He was whispering. He looked nervous and caggy, and kept glancing back over his shoulder till it looked him a moment to realize the connection had been made. "Henry," said Jinsey. "What a great surprise." "Shh," said Henry. "Not so loud. I shouldn't be calling out at all, let alone using this channel. If they find out I did, at the very least, it'll cost me my job." "What's wrong, Henry?" Henry shook his head. "I'm calling you just so you'll stop worrying about your brother. He's here. He's alive. He's okay. You don't need to worry about him anymore. That's all I can tell you." Jinsey felt his heart leap. "Where's here, Henry? I have to know." "I can't tell you," said Henry. "It doesn't matter. What matters is he's okay." "Is he a prisoner? What happened to him?" "It's a penal colony," said Henry. "That's where I work. Yes, he's a prisoner. I saw him for the first time yesterday, not in person, on vid. I almost didn't recognize him." "What was wrong with him that you almost didn't recognize him?" asked Jinsey, his voice rising. Henry pressed his finger to his lips. "You don't know what I'm risking telling you this. It's not enough," said Jinsey. "I need more. I need to know where you are." "Classified," said Henry. "Reach now for the off switch." "I wish I could, but Henry, think of everything we did together," said Jinsey hurriedly. "You've already told me enough to get you in trouble. Now give me the rest." Through the screen he saw Henry hesitating, his hand still hovering near the cut-off. "Please, Henry," he said, "I'm your best friend." And for a moment Henry's nervousness stilled. He nodded almost imperceptibly and said one word, "Aspera," and then the screen went dead. Chapter 15. Aspera. At first he thought it was the name of the facility of a penal colony on some backwater world, but a quick search turned up nothing of the kind. The only Asperas he could come up with were a school back on Earth, now defunct, and an uninhabited and uninhabitable planet, an uncolonized world, far to the edge of the galaxy and away from normal trade paths. He found a satellite image of the school and saw it was collapsing. Definitely nobody there. No images seemed to excite of the planet. It had a few valuable resources and had been classified off limits to industrial concerns and other interesting parties. It was just one word, very little to go on, plus what Henry had said to back it up, and the little he could infer. Maybe his brother was there somewhere on the planet, or maybe Aspera referred to something else, some off-the-vid corporation or lesser-known location on another planet. Or maybe he'd misunderstood what Henry had said. It could have been Aspera or Haspera. Those were possibilities too, he supposed, but exploring those names didn't turn up anything substantial either. It was the first time in years he'd had any clear identification that Istvan was still alive. He had to ask himself, do I really want to go after my brother if he was in a penal colony. What could he do for him? Shouldn't he leave him where he was? But despite himself, like a bad reflex, he found the same protectiveness for his older brother kicking in. Now that he suspected he knew where Istvan was, how could he stop himself from going after him? Even if he wasn't there, even if he didn't manage to see him, at least he had to try.